There is a small Ohio city, population under 20,000, where the violent crime rate runs at 8.8 per 1,000 residents, placing it above Canton, above Akron, and above the state's much larger industrial cities by per capita violent crime. It sits in a suburb of Columbus. It looks, from the highway, exactly like every other piece of Ohio commercial strip, and it has been sitting at or near the top of statewide per capita crime rankings for years without making the kind of national headlines that its numbers deserve. Ohio is supposed to be the Buckeye State, corn, Cedar Point, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Ohio State football, but what the tourism board skips is the other Ohio, the one where a Rust Belt city has 3 times the national violent crime rate, the one where the most recent FBI data gave Columbus a lower violent crime rate than a small city 45 minutes away, the one where post-industrial collapse, fentanyl, and 4 decades of disinvestment have compounded into numbers that demand a real conversation. These cities are real. They are documented in FBI and Ohio incident-based reporting data, and they are in a state that calls itself the heart of it all. And trust me, you are not ready for what's at number 1. Let's break it down. Warren is a city of approximately 38,000 people in Trumbull County in the northeastern corner of Ohio, about 15 miles north of Youngstown and 55 miles south of Cleveland. It sits in the Mahoning Valley, the same post-industrial steel corridor that built Youngstown and then collapsed around it, and it has been managing the consequences of that collapse for the past 4 decades. Crime data from FBI reporting and Ohio incident-based reporting system data documents. Warren's violent and property crime rates running significantly above both the Ohio state average and national averages. Warren's economy was anchored in steel manufacturing and the automotive supply chain, particularly through Delphi Packard Electrical, a major employer whose facilities in the Warren area employed thousands of workers for decades before corporate restructuring reduced that footprint significantly. The job losses that followed left Warren with the typical post-industrial profile: elevated unemployment, concentrated poverty in neighborhoods that were once working class but lost their economic foundation, and the crime statistics that follow from those conditions. Trumbull County has been one of the Ohio counties most severely affected by the opioid crisis. Warren and the surrounding region have recorded overdose death rates that place them at the severe end of Ohio's already severe distribution. The connection between the opioid epidemic, drug market violence, and property crime driven by addiction has been documented extensively in local journalism and law enforcement reporting. Warren has genuine community investment. The Warren Tribune Chronicle has covered local efforts toward economic revitalization, and the city has attracted some new manufacturing in the broader Trumbull County area. But the crime data reflects conditions that revitalization programs operate against, not conditions that have already been resolved. Warren carries the Mahoning Valley's weight. The next entry carries its own specific burden, and it's a city most Ohioans think they know, but probably don't look at closely enough. Toledo is Ohio's 4th largest city, with approximately 272,000 people on the Maumee River at the southwestern edge of Lake Erie, just 20 miles from the Michigan border. Toledo is sometimes called Little Detroit by regional observers, partly for its proximity to the Motor City and partly for the specific post-industrial crime dynamics it shares with its northern neighbor. FBI 2024 crime data places Toledo's crime rate at approximately 56.42 crimes per 1,000 residents. Toledo has a documented gang problem that is specific enough to be counted. Law enforcement sources have estimated the city at approximately 158 active street gangs for a city of under 300,000 residents, a concentration that, if accurate, rivals cities considerably larger. Toledo's position on I-75 and I-80 and 90 gives it highway access that makes it a documented transit and distribution point for drug trafficking between Detroit and points south and east, and the drug market competition that follows from that position has contributed to the city's violent crime environment. Toledo has a homicide rate and an aggravated assault rate that consistently place it among Ohio's most dangerous cities in FBI reporting. Drug-related violence has been a specific documented driver. Toledo Police Department and DEA task force operations in the area have documented the drug distribution networks that operate through the city and county. The opioid and fentanyl crisis has been particularly severe in Lucas County, near Toledo is the county seat. Toledo also has genuine cultural and historical assets. The Toledo Museum of Art is one of the finest regional art museums in the country. The Toledo Mud Hens are a beloved ALA baseball team. and the Glass City has a heritage of skilled manufacturing that advocates are working to revive. The crime data is not Toledo's whole story. It is, however, an important chapter that the city's own residents navigate carefully. Toledo has Detroit's highway dynamics without Detroit's size. The next city has its own highway problem, and a fentanyl crisis that made national news. Chillicothe is a city of approximately 22,000 people in Ross County in south-central Ohio, about 45 miles south of Columbus on US Route 35. Before Columbus became Ohio's capital, Chillicothe held the honor. It was Ohio's first capital and later its third. Today, Chillicothe's most prominent national presence is not historical. It is the documented severity of its fentanyl and heroin epidemic and the violent crime that has followed from it. FBI crime data has consistently placed Chillicothe among Ohio's most dangerous cities on a per capita basis, despite its relatively small population. The violent crime rate runs significantly above state averages. Ross County has recorded drug overdose death rates that places it among the most severely affected counties in Ohio, a state that has been one of the country's hardest hit in the opioid crisis. Chillicothe's local newspaper, the Chillicothe Gazette, has covered the fentanyl crisis and associated violence extensively, and the community has been honest in public forums about the severity of what the city has been managing. Chillicothe has also been the subject of an extraordinary and deeply disturbing law enforcement investigation. Between 2014 and 2016, 6 women, many of them involved in drug addiction and survival sex work, disappeared or were found dead in and around Chillicothe. The cases drew national media attention and an HBO documentary, The Witness and the Watcher, examining both the deaths and the law enforcement response. Not all of the cases have been fully resolved. The documentary raised serious questions about whose disappearances get investigated with what urgency in a small Ohio city. The combination of a high per capita crime rate, a severe drug crisis, and a documented series of unsolved or partially resolved deaths of young women makes Chillicothe's public safety record one of the most complicated on this list, and one that the city's residents have been living with for over a decade. Chillicothe's fentanyl crisis and unsolved deaths made national documentaries. The next city made national news for a different reason, and its crime numbers are just as severe. Lima is a city of approximately 37,000 people in Allen County in northwest Ohio. It is an industrial city that once anchored the regional economy through oil refining, locomotive manufacturing, and steel production. The Allen County economy, like most of northwestern Ohio's manufacturing base, contracted significantly through the latter decades of the 20th century, and Lima absorbed that contraction with consequences that are visible in the current crime data. FBI, 2024 crime data and Ohio IBRS data document Lima as one of the state's most consistently dangerous mid-sized cities. The Axios analysis of 2024 FBI data for Ohio noted specifically that Columbus, the state capital with more than 900,000 residents, had a lower violent crime rate in 2024 than Lima, a city of 37,000. That comparison, which appeared in documented journalism, illustrates how extreme Lima's per capita crime figures are relative to what most Ohioans assume about small versus large city danger. Allen County has been one of the Ohio counties documented in opioid litigation and state reporting as experiencing severe drug-related harm. The correlation between heroin and fentanyl distribution in smaller Ohio industrial cities and their violent crime rates has been documented by state law enforcement agencies, and Lima appears consistently in that analysis. The city has a hospital, Lima Memorial Health System, and significant state employment through the Allen Oakwood Correctional Institution and other facilities. These institutions provide some economic stability, but the concentration of poverty in residential neighborhoods that lost their manufacturing employment base has proven more resilient than the employment provided by institutional anchors, and the crime data reflects that. Lima's crime rate beats Columbus despite being a fraction of its size. The next city has the same problem in a name that most people outside Ohio can't immediately place. Piqua is a city of approximately 22,000 people in Miami County in western Ohio, about 30 miles north of Dayton on Interstate 75. Miami County is generally considered a relatively stable part of western Ohio. Piqua sits in a county that includes Troy and other communities with lower crime profiles, which makes Piqua's own per capita crime figures particularly striking in context. Ohio IBRS data places Piqua's violent crime rate at approximately 32 per 1,000 residents, a figure that places it among the state's most dangerous communities, and as documented in the 2024 Axios analysis of FBI data, above the violent crime rate of Columbus, Canton, and Akron, a city of 22,000 people in a mid-sized county consistently registering violent crime numbers that beat Ohio's major urban centers is exactly the kind of pattern this list exists to document. Piqua's industrial history includes significant manufacturing employment that contracted over recent decades. The city has seen poverty concentration in specific neighborhoods that follow the pattern of other post-industrial Ohio small cities, working-class residential areas that lost their employment anchor and have not yet found a replacement. Drug activity, particularly heroin and fentanyl distribution, has been documented by Miami County law enforcement as a driver of both property crime and associated violence in Piqua. Miami County and the surrounding region have been active participants in Ohio's opioid litigation and settlement processes, reflecting the documented severity of drug-related harm across the area. The specific Piqua concentration of that harm is visible in the per capita crime numbers that consistently exceed what the city's size and county context would lead an outside observer to predict. Piqua's crime numbers exceed Ohio's major cities despite its small size. The next entry is a city most people confuse with another state, but its Ohio crime data is distinctly its own. Portsmouth is a city of approximately 19,000 people in Scioto County in southern Ohio, on the Ohio River across from Kentucky. Scioto County has been at the center of Ohio's and the country's opioid epidemic narrative for longer than most communities. The county was specifically named in national reporting as one of the places most affected by the pharmaceutical opioid distribution that preceded the heroin and fentanyl waves. Dr. David Proctor, a Portsmouth area physician convicted in 2002 of drug trafficking charges related to operating what federal prosecutors described as a pill mill, became one of the early documented cases of the prescription opioid crisis in rural Ohio. Portsmouth and Scioto County's opioid history is extensively documented in journalism, in the documentary The OxyContin Express, in litigation, and in public health research that has used Scioto County as a case study for the epidemic's progression in rural Appalachian, Ohio. The consequences of that epidemic for community health, for employment, for family stability, and for crime have been measurable in Portsmouth's data for over 2 decades. The Axios analysis of 2024 FBI crime data for Ohio placed Portsmouth among the small Ohio cities with violent crime rates above those of Columbus. That finding, in the context of Portsmouth's documented history with drug-driven violence, property crime, and community destabilization, is not a statistical anomaly. It is the expected outcome of conditions that have been building since the 1990s and have never been fully addressed by the resources available to a small Ohio river city. Portsmouth has a genuine cultural heritage. The Floodwall Murals, a series of paintings along the Ohio River floodwall celebrating Scioto County history, are one of the most remarkable public art installations in southern Ohio. The city has advocates who care deeply about its future. The crime data and the decades-long drug crisis are what those advocates are working against. Portsmouth's opioid crisis was documented before the crisis had a name. The next city's crisis came later and hit harder. Cambridge is a small city of approximately 10,500 people in Guernsey County in southeastern Ohio on the Appalachian Plateau. It is the county seat of Guernsey County and the commercial center for a rural Appalachian region. Neighborhood Scout and FBI-derived analysis have documented Cambridge's crime rate among the higher per capita figures for Ohio small cities, a designation that for a city of 10,000 reflects a concentrated crime environment that affects a significant proportion of the population. Cambridge's Appalachian, Ohio context is important for understanding its crime profile. Southeastern Ohio's Appalachian counties, of which Guernsey is one, share the economic and social challenges of the broader Appalachian region: limited economic diversification, elevated poverty rates, significant opioid impact, and outmigration of younger working-age people that leaves an older and more economically vulnerable population behind. These are documented patterns in Ohio University's research on Appalachian, Ohio, and they produce the conditions that crime data measures. Guernsey County has faced documented challenges with drug trafficking and drug-related crime. The county's position at the intersection of Interstate 70 and US 40, historic highway corridors through eastern Ohio, has made it a documented transit point for narcotics moving through southeastern Ohio. The combination of geographic position, economic vulnerability, and inadequate social service infrastructure creates conditions that Cambridge's police department manages with limited resources. Cambridge is Appalachian, Ohio at its most vulnerable. The next city is urban Ohio at its most alarming per capita. Canton is a city of approximately 68,000 people in Stark County in northeastern Ohio, about 60 miles south of Cleveland. It is the home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which brings significant tourist traffic to the city each summer for the Hall of Fame festival. It is also, based on 2024 FBI crime data, one of the most dangerous mid-sized cities in Ohio, with a crime rate of approximately 56.65 per 1,000 residents, among the highest in the state. Canton's violent crime rate runs at approximately 12 per 1,000 residents, placing it consistently above the Ohio state average in FBI reporting. The burglary rate and property crime rates are similarly elevated. Drug-related crime has been identified by the Stark County law enforcement community as a primary driver. The city is at the intersection of highway corridors that have been documented as drug distribution routes, and the associated violence of drug market competition has been a persistent feature of Canton's crime environment. The contrast between the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a gleaming tourist destination that draws visitors from across the country every summer, and the residential neighborhoods a few miles from it, is one of the sharper examples of the tourism safety dichotomy that appears in several Ohio cities. Visitors who come for the Hall of Fame see a well-managed tourist corridor. The people who live in Canton's residential neighborhoods navigate a city whose crime rate is among the highest in a mid-size Ohio city category. Canton has community policing initiatives and youth intervention programs that local advocates have credited with modest improvements in specific crime categories. The structural economic conditions, concentrated poverty in specific neighborhoods, limited economic diversification are more resistant to those interventions than specific program successes suggest. Canton has the Hall of Fame for visitors and crime stats for residents. The next city has neither tourist cover nor the same resources. Dayton is a city of approximately 136,000 people in Montgomery County in southwestern Ohio. It was once one of the most innovative industrial cities in America, home to the Wright brothers, NCR Corporation, and a manufacturing base that produced a wide range of products for national and international markets. It was also ground zero for the fentanyl crisis in Ohio in ways that gave it specific national prominence for the worst possible reasons. In 2017, Dayton's emergency services responded to nearly 240 overdose calls in a single 6-day period in August, events that required multiple ambulances, exhausted naloxone supplies, and produced imagery that national news organizations was described as resembling a disaster response. That specific, concentrated, documented moment of crisis was the result of a batch of fentanyl-laced heroin that entered the local drug supply. Dayton's overall overdose death rate for that year was among the highest per capita in the United States. The 2024 FBI and Ohio IBRS data documents Dayton's violent crime rate at approximately 12.9 per 1,000 residents and property crime at approximately 41.3 per 1,000. Both well above state and national averages. Montgomery County's drug-related law enforcement activity has been documented in DEA operational reporting, and the city's specific neighborhoods, particular areas in western and southern Dayton, have been identified in local journalism as concentrated crime zones. Dayton has invested significantly in its downtown revitalization, and the Oregon District, Five Rivers Metro Park, and the National Museum of the United States Air Force at Wright-Patterson are genuine assets that attract visitors and support quality of life for residents in safer parts of the city. The city's crime challenge is concentrated geographically, but severe enough in those concentrated areas that the citywide per capita figure figures consistently rank Dayton among Ohio's most dangerous cities. Dayton's 2017 fentanyl crisis week defined a decade of national drug policy conversation. The next city's crisis is less famous and equally severe. Mansfield is a city of approximately 46,000 people in Richland County in north-central Ohio, about 60 miles north of Columbus. It sits in the manufacturing corridor between Cleveland and Columbus and carries the full weight of the post-industrial decline that has shaped that corridor's smaller cities. FBI crime data places Mansfield consistently among Ohio's top 10 most dangerous cities by per capita crime rate, with violent crime and property crime both running well above state averages. Mansfield is best known to most Americans through two very different cultural references. The first is the Mansfield Reformatory, the Ohio State Reformatory, a Gothic revival castle of a prison built in 1886 that was used as the filming location for The Shawshank Redemption in 1994. It is now a museum and ghost tour destination that draws visitors from across the country. The second reference most people don't know, Mansfield consistently ranks in the top tier of Ohio's most dangerous cities by FBI data, with crime rates that bear no relationship to the cheerful Shawshank tourism experience. Richland County has faced documented challenges with drug trafficking along its highway corridors, and law enforcement has documented the area as a distribution point for narcotics moving through north-central Ohio. The combination of post-industrial poverty concentration and drug corridor positioning creates the conditions that Mansfield's crime data reflects. The Shawshank Trail tourism program that has been built around filming locations in the Mansfield area is a genuine and creative economic development initiative that generates real visitor traffic. The juxtaposition of a prison tourism economy built on a film about institutional injustice with a city that has some of Ohio's worst crime statistics is one of those specifically Ohio situations that requires both details to understand the full picture. Mansfield is Shawshank country and high crime country simultaneously. The next entry has neither the famous prison nor any of the tourism cushion. Whitehall is a suburb of Columbus with a population of approximately 19,900 people, incorporated as an independent city and sitting directly east of Columbus proper. The Axios analysis of 2024 FBI crime data identified Whitehall explicitly as one of the Ohio communities with a violent crime rate higher than Columbus. Significant, given that Columbus recorded a violent crime rate of 434.9 per in 2024. 100,000 crime by city data documents Whitehall's violent crime rate at approximately 8.8 per 1,000 residents and property crime at approximately 56.9 per 1,000, the latter figure placing Whitehall near the top of Ohio's property crime rankings among smaller cities. Whitehall is the entry in this list that most directly illustrates the intro's core observation, a small city that looks, from the outside, exactly like a suburban commercial corridor, but carries crime numbers that exceed Ohio's major urban centers on a per capita basis. The city shares a border with Columbus's east side and processes some of the crime dynamics of that urban boundary area within the resources of a 19,000 person municipality. Whitehall has a significant portion of its housing stock in older apartment complexes that were built for Columbus area workers and have aged without the maintenance investment that would be expected in more prosperous communities. Concentrated poverty in those complexes has been identified in local reporting as a driver of specific crime concentrations within the city. The property crime rate, 56.9 per 1,000, is the specific number that most residents will recognize from personal experience or the experience of people they know. Whitehall has Columbus's eastern edge crime and its own police department's resources. The next entry is east of Cleveland, and the data is even harder to look at. East Cleveland is a small city of approximately 14,000 people that is entirely surrounded by the city of Cleveland, an enclave municipality that is administratively separate from Cleveland despite having no boundaries with any other community. It is widely cited as Ohio's poorest city with a poverty rate of approximately 39.5% and a median household income of approximately $23,004, among the lowest of any incorporated city in Ohio. FBI and Ohio IBRS 2023 data documents. East Cleveland's violent crime rate at approximately 1,603 incidents per 100,000 residents, second only to Cleveland itself among Ohio cities in violent crime rate by that measure. That figure places East Cleveland in the company of America's most violent communities for any population tier. For a city of 14,000 people, entirely surrounded by a larger city, with a median household income barely above the federal poverty line for a family of 4, the violent crime rate is the expected statistical output of conditions that have been building for decades. East Cleveland's fiscal situation is one of the most severe of any Ohio municipality. The city has faced financial emergencies and been the subject of state fiscal oversight. The combination of an extremely low tax base, an aging infrastructure, and the community service demands generated by concentrated poverty has left East Cleveland with a fiscal situation that makes adequate policing, code enforcement, and social services genuinely difficult to fund. The city's school district has faced similar fiscal challenges. East Cleveland's situation has been the subject of policy discussions about municipal consolidation. The question of whether East Cleveland should be merged with Cleveland has been discussed in local politics for years. The merger discussions have not produced a resolution, and East Cleveland continues to operate as a separate municipality managing extraordinary challenges with extraordinary limitations. East Cleveland is surrounded by Cleveland and more dangerous per capita than the city around it. The next entry is closer to the numbers that define Ohio's most severe documented crisis. Youngstown is a city of approximately 60,000 people in Mahoning County in northeastern Ohio, near the Pennsylvania border. It is one of the most extensively documented cases of American industrial collapse. Once a major steel production center, Youngstown's steel industry effectively died on September 19, 1977, known locally as Black Monday, when Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company announced the immediate closure of its Campbell Works and laid off approximately 5,000 workers at once. More closures followed. The population collapsed from a peak of approximately 170,000 to under 60,000 today. The violent crime rate in Youngstown runs at approximately 3 times the Ohio state average, according to documented crime analyses. Ohio IBRS and FBI data place Youngstown among the state's most dangerous cities consistently across multiple reporting years. The per capita murder rate, robbery rate, and aggravated assault rate all run significantly above state and national averages. Neighborhood Scout places Youngstown as safer than only approximately 5% of American communities by combined crime rate, a figure that means 95% of American communities are safer. Youngstown's crime environment is concentrated geographically. Specific neighborhoods on the south and east sides of the city carry disproportionate crime loads, but in a city of 60,000 that has lost 70% of its peak population, the geographic containment of high crime areas is limited by the shrinkage of the entire city around them. Residents of what were once separate, functioning neighborhoods now live in communities where vacancy rates are high, and the social infrastructure that suppresses crime has thinned. Youngstown is also a city that has received significant national attention as a case study in smart shrinkage, the deliberate planning approach that accepts population decline and works to make a smaller city function better, rather than fighting for a return to a size it will not achieve. The Youngstown 2010 plan, developed in 2002, was an early and influential example of this planning philosophy. The crime data is what that shrinkage and that planning effort are operating against. Youngstown's Black Monday is a fixed date in American economic history. The crime it produced has no fixed end date. The next entry takes a different path to similar numbers. Springfield is a city of approximately 58,000 people in Clark County, about halfway between Columbus and Dayton on Interstate 70. RoadSnack's analysis of 2024 FBI data places Springfield as Ohio's second most dangerous city overall. The city recorded approximately 2 burglaries per day on average in 2024, earning it the highest burglary rate in the entire state of Ohio. The total crime rate runs at approximately 32.56 per 1,000 residents. Residents faced roughly a 1 in 22 chance of having property stolen or damaged in 2024. Springfield entered national political discourse in September 2024 in an unusual and damaging way, when false claims began circulating nationally about Haitian immigrants in the city committing specific crimes against residents' pets. Those claims were false, were explicitly debunked by Springfield's own mayor, city manager Brian Heck, and by Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, and were amplified in ways that generated bomb threats against the city's schools and government buildings. The false claims produced real harm, in the form of threats and fear, to a community that was already managing genuine and documented public safety challenges. The genuine public safety challenges in Springfield are in the FBI data. Elevated burglary rates, property crime, and violent crime that place the city among Ohio's most dangerous. Clark County has faced documented drug trafficking challenges and the city's post-industrial economic situation. Manufacturing employment that contracted over decades without full replacement creates the conditions that the crime data measures. The political controversy of 2024, which was based on false information, did not change those underlying conditions and in some ways made honest conversation about them harder. Springfield has a genuine community fighting for its future. Local advocates, law enforcement, community organizations, and city government are all working on specific crime reduction and economic development strategies. The task they are working against is documented in FBI data that places their city at the top of Ohio's burglary rankings. Springfield's 2024 national moment was built on false claims. Its crime data is built on real ones. The next entry has no political controversy, just decades of documented numbers. Akron is a city of approximately 190,000 people in Summit County in northeastern Ohio, about 40 miles south of Cleveland in the northeastern Ohio urban triangle. It was once the rubber capital of the world. Goodyear, Firestone, BF Goodrich, and General Tire all had major operations in Akron at various points. The decline of American tire manufacturing hit Akron as precisely as the decline of steel hit Youngstown, and the resulting post-industrial profile is visible in the 2024 crime data. FBI 2024 data and Ohio IBRS place Akron's crime rate at approximately 50 to 55 crimes per 1,000 residents, depending on the data source, consistently placing it among Ohio's 5 most dangerous cities. Summit County jail overcrowding has been documented by local reporting as a persistent challenge, reflecting the volume of criminal justice caseload the county is managing. The Akron Police Department has noted specific crime concentration areas including South Street and Thornton Avenue as particularly requiring attention. Akron has had specific high-profile violent incidents that have marked the city's recent crime history. Drug-related shootings in residential neighborhoods have been documented in Akron Beacon Journal, reporting over multiple years. The city's gang activity has been the subject of federal task force operations that have resulted in significant prosecutions. Summit County's opioid crisis has been documented in state and county public health reporting as one of the more severe in northeastern Ohio. Akron also has the University of Akron, which provides some economic anchor and cultural activity. The Goodyear Polymer Center and associated polymer science research community represent a genuine economic asset. LeBron James is from Akron, and his I Promise School represents a specific community-rooted investment in the city's children that has generated national attention. The crime data and those community assets coexist in the same city, which is the reality of Akron in 2025. Akron is LeBron's city and a top 5 Ohio crime city simultaneously. The next 3 entries are the ones that define what Ohio's most extreme documented danger looks like. Cincinnati is Ohio's 3rd largest city, with approximately 309,000 people in Hamilton County at the southwestern corner of the state on the Ohio River, bordering Kentucky. It is a city of genuine civic pride, significant cultural institutions, and a downtown that has been substantially revitalized over the past decade. It is also a city whose violent crime numbers, particularly in specific neighborhoods, have placed it consistently among Ohio's and the nation's more dangerous large cities. Ohio IBRS data documents Cincinnati's violent crime rate at approximately 8.9 per 1,000 residents, above the Ohio state average of 2.9 per 1,000 and the national average of 3.59 per 1,000. Hamilton County has been one of the Ohio counties most severely impacted by fentanyl. The county coroner's office has published annual drug death reports that place Hamilton County's overdose death toll among the most severe in the state. The drug market violence associated with fentanyl distribution has been a documented driver of Cincinnati's Cincinnati's violent crime numbers. Cincinnati's crime is concentrated geographically in specific neighborhoods. The West End, parts of Avondale, and over the Rhine historically have carried disproportionate shares of the city's violent crime load. Though over the Rhine's dramatic gentrification has shifted its crime profile significantly, the city is actively managing a crime environment that is not uniform across all of its neighborhoods, and the citywide statistics reflect the concentration in specific areas rather than a uniform risk across all of Cincinnati. Cincinnati's genuine revitalization story. The restoration of Over the Rhine's historic architecture, the FC Cincinnati soccer franchise, the Bengals and Reds, the thriving food scene, is real and deserving of acknowledgement. It coexists with a violent crime rate that places Cincinnati above most similarly sized American cities, and that coexistence is the honest picture of a city managing serious challenges while building real assets. Cincinnati is Ohio's culture city and a top 3 dangerous city simultaneously. The next entry is smaller, less famous, and its per capita numbers are harder to process. Cleveland is Ohio's largest city with approximately 364,000 people on Lake Erie in Cuyahoga County. The 2024 FBI crime data places Cleveland at the absolute top of Ohio's danger table, approximately 1,561 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, the highest violent crime rate in the state by a substantial margin. Neighborhood Scout documents a crime rate of approximately 64 per 1,000 residents, giving Cleveland a combined crime index that makes it safer than only approximately 4% of American communities. Residents face a 1 in 80 chance of violent victimization annually. Cleveland recorded approximately 145 murders in a recent reporting year, approximately 40 per 100,000 people, placing it among the highest homicide rates of any major American city. The property crime rate runs at approximately 4,427 per 100,000 residents, placing it in the top tier of national property crime rates. These are not figures that require editorial framing. They are measurements from the FBI and Ohio incident-based reporting system that describe a city where the crime environment is severe, consistent, and concentrated in specific areas of the east and west sides. Cleveland's crime concentration is geographic. There are genuinely safe neighborhoods in Cleveland. Ohio City, Tremont, University Circle, and the near west side communities have experienced significant investment in gentrification. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Cleveland Clinic's world-class healthcare presence, and Case Western Reserve University are genuine assets that make Cleveland a functioning city with real strengths. But the citywide per capita statistics are driven by specific neighborhoods, the near east side, parts of the west side, where conditions are severe enough to produce citywide numbers that place Cleveland among the most dangerous large American cities. The economic story behind Cleveland's crime data is the Cuyahoga County version of the post-industrial collapse that runs through this entire Ohio list. Manufacturing employment that built the east side's working-class neighborhoods is largely gone. The tax base has declined with the population. Cleveland has lost over half its peak population. The services that remain are funded by a fraction of what once supported them, and the communities most affected by the economic collapse are the ones generating the crime numbers that this video has been building toward. Cleveland leads Ohio in violent crime and tops the national danger tier for major cities. The number 1 entry on this list is smaller, less famous, and in some per capita measures even harder to explain. Covered East Cleveland at number 7. It comes back at number 1 because when the full weight of its situation is laid out, the per capita violent crime rate, the poverty rate, the fiscal situation, the geographic enclavement, and the gap between what this community's residents need and what they have, East Cleveland is the number 1 entry on this list, not as a statistical technicality, but as a statement about what decades of disinvestment and neglect actually produce. East Cleveland is a city of approximately 14,000 people, smaller than some Ohio township subdivisions, managing the full fiscal and social service obligations of an incorporated municipality with a median household income of $23,004 and a poverty rate of 39.5%. The violent crime rate documented at 1,603 per 100,000 residents in 2023, data places it second only to Cleveland itself in the state, and in some per capita analyses, above it. For a city of 14,000 entirely surrounded by a major American city, those numbers represent a human reality that is extraordinary in its severity. The schools in East Cleveland have faced state academic emergency designations and fiscal emergencies simultaneously. The housing stock, and much of it from the first half of the 20th century, built for a different city and a different economy, is aging without the maintenance investment that would require the resources the city does not have. Road maintenance, park maintenance, and basic municipal services are all managed on a budget that reflects the tax base of 14,000 mostly low-income residents. The municipal consolidation question, whether East Cleveland should be absorbed by Cleveland, has been raised in policy circles for years. Residents have historically resisted, which reflects a genuine attachment to local identity and a legitimate concern about whether merger would actually improve conditions or simply expand a larger city's tax base with the same structural challenges. The resistance is understandable. The conditions it preserves are not sustainable. East Cleveland sits at number 1 on this list because it is the most precise expression of what this video is actually about. Not a large city with rough neighborhoods averaged out across a large population. Not a city whose crime numbers are driven by tourist area dynamics or highway drug corridors. A small, financially devastated, geographically enclosed Ohio city where a third of the residents live in poverty, where the violent crime rate per capita matches the most dangerous communities in America, and where the municipal government is doing what it can with what it has, which is not enough and has not been for a very long time. Ohio deserves to know this, and East Cleveland deserves better than what it has received from the state and country it is part of. Subscribe if this video added something to your understanding of Ohio's real safety landscape. Drop your perspective in the comments, especially if you live in one of these cities and want to add what the data misses. We're always learning. See you in the next one.